In a world where 80% of the population has superpowers called quirks, society turned to heroes to maintain order. While official heroes serve under government sanction, some operate outside the law of vigilantes with their own sense of justice. Before Izuku Midoriya entered UA High School, one such vigilante stepped into the shadows. My name is Koichi Himawari, and this is my story. You ever have one of those days where everything spirals out of control, but somehow you end up exactly where you needed to be? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. One giant villain chewing on a motorcycle like it was a chew toy. Then, like a force of nature, he appeared, All Might, the #1 hero. The man himself flew down from the rooftops, cape flapping like something out of a comic book, and smashed that villain into the pavement with a single Detroit smash. The street shook. People cheered. I just stood there, a 19-year-old college student, mouth open like a total fanboy. Then he leapt off into the sky with the criminal in tow, like gravity had no claim on him, and just like that, poof, gone. And me, I was late for class, again. I cut through an alley trying to make up time, and of course, bad luck magnet that I am, I bumped into Soga and his goons. He poured his soda out, blamed it on me, then demanded I get on my knees and apologize. So, I did. Yeah, I know I'm pathetic. Moyuru and Rapt laughed like hyenas, and Soga reared back to kick me in the head, but I slide back just in time, thanks to my quirk slide and glide. It's not flashy, barely faster than a bike, but it saved me from a boot to the face. I zipped to the street and coasted away, ignoring all the people calling me cockroach guy. Real ego boosters, those ones. That evening, I stumbled on a street crowd watching a guerrilla performance by a girl calling herself Pop Step. She had a quirk that let her bounce around like a pinball nothing crazy, but it worked with her routine. Her singing? Not great. But she was glowing up there. I envied that. Still, I had to clock in, so I left. Minimum wage doesn't earn itself. And then... Yep. Soga again. Like a cockroach in reverse. This guy just kept showing up. They dragged me out of the store, beat me down in an alley, threatened me with spikes, and left me limping home. Cops? Nowhere. Heroes? Busy. Justice? Optional. That night, I decided I'd had enough. I threw on my old All Might hoodie, gloves, a mask, and hit the streets. Just little stuff. Picking up dropped keys, giving directions, and disposing of trash in the bin. Not much, but people started calling me nice guy. Cheesy? Sure. But it felt good. Helping people always did. During one of my patrols, I ran into Popstep again. She gave me a soda, called me cockroach guy, and asked if I was trying to cosplay All Might. I told her yes, because if I could be even a fraction of what he was, maybe I could make a difference. And then, the worst case scenario. Soga and his gang again. This time, they weren't after me. They were harassing Pop, grabbing her, mocking her makeup, threatening to do unspeakable things, and I froze. I told them to stop quietly, weakly, and when they told me to walk away, I almost did. But then, I saw her face, the fear in her eyes. I couldn't walk away from that. I tried to take them by surprise. I failed. Soga kicked me in the face, called me a wannabe hero, and said he'd beat me and my workplace bloody. He said he will expose Popstep online. He didn't need a reason, just anger, cruelty, power. That's when he fell from the sky. Not All Might this time, someone else. A massive man in a trench coat, brass knuckles, and a wild glare. He called himself Knuckle Duster, and he didn't say much before knocking Soga flat with a punch so hard I felt the air shift. The others didn't fare much better. I thought I was next, but instead, he offered me a job. A hero's job. He said he saw potential. I told him no, but he saw right through me. He said I liked helping people, that I looked up to All Might, that I was already halfway there. I told him my quirk wasn't good enough. He said it didn't matter. Then Soga tried a last-ditch move, grabbed Popstep again, threatened to disfigure her, and I remembered what Knuckle Duster said, real heroes act. So, I did. I slid in and tackled him to the ground. Knuckle Duster finished the job with another haymaker. Popstep was safe, for now. Knuckle Duster came with me to my home. He started examining my student ID and insisted on calling me Koichi while demanding that I call him Master. He took things for granted and used all my belongings without permission. That's when things got darker. Soga and his crew didn't stay down. Later that night, they were approached by a guy with a scar and a ponytail. He handed them vials of something called Trigger. One injection later, and their bodies and quirks mutated into something monstrous. Back at my place, Knuckle Duster laid it all out. Trigger is a quirk-enhancing drug, and it's spreading across Naruhata like wildfire. It gives people power, but strips them of their sanity, turns them into instant villains. And you know what's worse? The heroes can't keep up. Not in time. Not where it matters. That's where we come in, says Knuckle Duster, which I did not agree with. So now, I'm helping him, tracking down users, checking tongues. Yeah, Trigger turns them black, apparently, and stopping the next disaster before it starts. Popstep arrives giving us crap, helping us find leads, calling us idiots. And then Knuckle Duster stops a man and demands to see his tongue. I rushed there and tried to stop him, but in the process, the man's briefcase fell, revealing action figures. But Knuckle Duster is still suspicious of the man and is about to punch him. Just then, a certain tired-looking pro-hero with a scarf and a glare stopped us in our tracks. It's none other than Eraserhead. Knuckle Duster and Eraserhead are fighting in the middle of the street. Apparently, the pro-hero thought my grumpy mentor was picking a fight for no reason. Eraserhead had the edge early on, he's fast and clever, and that binding claw thing is seriously no joke. But Knuckle Duster? He's built like a tank that punches back. Even when Eraserhead used his quirk to try to shut down Knuckle Duster's supposed ability, it didn't work. Because plot twist, Knuckle Duster doesn't have a quirk. While they were duking it out, Mario the salaryman we bumped into earlier started freaking out and bolted. Can't blame the guy for running from two grown men fighting each other in the middle of the street, but Popstep noticed something weird. Turns out, this guy, he'd been spotted at every scene involving an instant villain lately. Pop jumped into action literally and called me to back her up. I started chasing after Mario, just trying to talk to the guy, then boom, Soga, Rapt, and Moyuru showed up, looking for revenge. Guess they didn't enjoy yesterday's beatdown courtesy of yours truly and the old man. Then Eraserhead and Knuckle Duster eventually called a truce. Apparently, if you're not using a quirk to do anything bad, I have no reason to arrest you, even if you act like a complete psycho, says Eraserhead. Still, he was really surprised Knuckle Duster was so dangerous without powers. Can't say I blame him. Anyway, back to me getting chased. I was dodging left and right, trying not to scream in public, when Knuckle Duster popped up like some grizzled ninja and started chucking bricks like it was a construction site brawl. He saved my butt again. Eraserhead restrained Soga and went full hero mode, even though it was his day off. Talk about work ethic. Meanwhile, Popstep almost caught up to Mario, but then Rapt drop-kicked her mid-air. Her fall sent Mario's briefcase flying again, and this time, the dude went full creeper mode. Crawled toward his all-might figure like it was some sacred relic, muttering about not dropping his precious dolls. Then, he took off the head of the action figure to reveal a needle of Trigger. He stabbed it right into his neck. The guy mutated right in front of us. 4 arms, black skin, total muscle monster. His quirk playtime turned everyone and everything around him into his personal toy box, including Pop and Rapt. It was chaos. Knuckle Duster grapple hooked in and kicked him square in the jaw, which helped until he got slapped halfway across the street. The impact knocked Popstep loose, and she started falling fast. No time to think. I remembered how she asked me once why I hung around Knuckle Duster, and in that moment, I finally had my answer. I didn't jump because someone told me to. I didn't jump because I wanted to look cool. I jumped because I wanted to be a hero, even if I didn't have a license, even if I was just some sliding college kid. Just once, I wanted to be enough. I caught her mid-fall. She used me to leap to safety, and then I started falling. But hey, slide and glide activate when I'm touching a surface, right? Turns out, the palm of a giant villain's hand counts. I skated off that monster's grip like a pro skater in a boss fight and landed in a pile of trash. Again. Mario almost squashed me, but Eraser showed up right on time to deactivate his quirk and bind him up. The crisis is mostly averted. Later, Eraser confronted Knuckle Duster and thanked him for his help. Knuckle Duster replied that they both wanted the same thing, to prevent crime. He asserted that they were doing what pro-heroes couldn't, stopping the bad guys before they committed any crimes. However, Eraserhead pointed out that he couldn't physically confront someone before they committed a crime. Knuckle Duster laughed and said that if that was the case, then Eraserhead couldn't arrest him unless he committed a crime. With a chuckle, Knuckle Duster then disappeared into the alley. After that, Popstep came to check on me. I was fine, but a little tired, and told her I probably wasn't cut out for this whole fighting thing. She told me to shut up, in a nice way, kinda, blushing and scolding me at the same time. Classic Pop. Knuckle Duster said I did well, especially with the trash landing. Said this was just the beginning. I tried to play it off, like always, but he called me out. Said I called him Master during the fight. I didn't even realize I did that. Yeah, he got me there. The next afternoon, Pop alerted me to a middle schooler brawl at the station. I suited up in the new biker armor Knuckle Duster gave me and slid in, and immediately crashed into more garbage. Seriously, I'm starting to think trash bags are my unofficial sidekick. When the punks asked who I was, I gave them the name Knuckle Duster suggested, the Crawler. They misheard it as the Cruller, like the donut. Great start. They didn't take me seriously and started hitting me until Knuckle Duster showed up and was about to punch them, and I tried to stop him. Popstep was annoyed and she took the matter into her own hands. And yeah, of course, the punks were Pop fans. Who isn't? Just as we were wrapping things up, another villain showed up. Big, gray, hardening quirk, wild eyes, flailing tongue, another trigger case. He went nuts, hit buildings, and terrified civilians. One woman dropped her stroller. I didn't think. I just moved, saved the baby before the villain could crush the thing. Knuckle Duster and I took him down together. He was strong but not focused. All that power with no control. That's the thing with Trigger. It's all flash, no form. Knuckle Duster clocked him out cold, but his face was too swollen to ID. That's probably not how heroes are supposed to do things, but it worked. Pop warned the punks about Trigger, and we bailed before the cops showed. Late in the evening, Naomasa and Sansa struggle to ID the instant villain. Sansa notes his rare, powerful quirk, but Naomasa says it was altered by Idio Trigger. Seeing the villain's injuries, he asks which hero fought him. Sansa says none, just two unknowns. Naomasa suspects Vigilantes. When Sansa says they helped, Naomasa snaps, "Doesn't matter, civilians don't get to play hero." Later that night, I found out something wild. The media had picked up on our antics, but nobody knew who we were. Instead, they gave us new names. Knuckle Duster was now Freaky Fist Grandpa, and me, the Cruller. Not exactly All Might tier branding, but I guess everyone's gotta start somewhere, right? After a long day in class, all I want is to just collapse on the couch with some leftover curry and maybe a cold one. I walk into my penthouse, and a guy is sitting on my couch, feet up, pounding my beer, flipping through my channels like he pays the rent. My heart almost jumped out of my throat. But before I can call the cops or scream, he slips on a mask. And it was none other than Knuckle Duster. He says he swung by early after work. He broke through my window to get in. Yeah, apparently that was easier than calling me. I didn't even get to yell at him because there was a knock at the door. I open it, and there's this tiny pink-haired blur of chaos who just barrels in without a hi or sorry I'm trespassing. It's Popstep. She starts throwing makeup on, setting up a curtain to change behind, and shouting at Knuckle Duster about his coat being on her side of the room. Mind you, this is my room, and suddenly it's a dressing room, a break room, and apparently Knuckle Duster's personal dive bar. At that moment, I realized something awful. I was the only one in that room who actually lived there. But no time to dwell on that. I had work, my boring day job, and wouldn't you know it? Right as I'm clocking in, Pop's getting ready for another one of her sidewalk shows. We're totally synced, just not in the way I hoped college life would be. Anyway, she's doing her thing, performing, being all Popstep, and asking the crowd to line up for a handshake. That's when one guy, Teruo Unagisawa kinda scrawny, big fan energy, tries to worm his way to the front. Doesn't go well, gets pushed back. Then Ichimoku and Jubi, these two middle school fans, come over to check on him and drop a little etiquette lesson. Then Ichimoku decides to ignore his own advice and fires a blaster into the sky. Seriously, where do kids get this tech? Pop compliments the guy, of course she does, and Jube gets mad. Teruo, he's just simmering, and then he snaps. Dude pulls out a vial of Trigger and jams it into his neck. In seconds, he turns into this huge, slimy, eel-looking monstrosity and charges after Pop, still begging for that handshake like he's at a handshake event from hell. My shift just ended when I saw the commotion. I didn't even hesitate, suit on. Let's go. The Crawler back in action. I chased after them with Ichimoku, Jube, and guess who, Knuckle Duster, back from wherever he ran off to. I grabbed Teruo by the tail, Knuckle Duster dove from above, and we both ended up in a pile of garbage. Literally. Slimy villains are not easy to pin down. While I'm trying to figure out how to handle eel goo powers, Knuckle Duster spots an udon shop, and I swear he got this look in his eye like he was about to order takeout. I called Pop, told her to bait Teruo into an alley and give him that handshake. It might calm him down, I figured, give him what he wanted, and maybe he'd snap out of it. She wasn't thrilled, but she did it. And yeah, it sort of worked, for a second. Then the eel tried to kiss her. Cue flower bomb, courtesy of me and Knuckle Duster. The stuff dried out his slime, and Knuckle Duster finished it with a few solid punches. Boom, instant villain neutralized. Only we couldn't ID him. Again. Like with the last one, his clothes and belongings were toast. Trigger users don't leave much behind. We dipped just as the cops rolled in. Pop says she needed a bath. Back at my place, now more crowded than usual, Pop complains about my shampoo, which she keeps using, Knuckle Duster's out of beer, which he drank, and somehow I'm the bad guy in all this. They're arguing about coats and underwear and smoke in the air, and I'm just outside hanging everyone's gear to dry. My college life? Not exactly what I imagined, but between the chaos and complaints, I've gotta admit, my life's more interesting than ever. Meanwhile, at the local police station, Naomasa and his partner Eizo are piecing together a pattern. All these instant villains, all in Naruhata, all using Trigger from an unknown source. Naomasa thinks someone's handing it out for free to get people hooked. Eizo's not convinced, considering how expensive Trigger is. Whatever the reason, it feels like something big's brewing. The next day, Pop and I are chilling when she gets a message from Ichimoku and Jube. Apparently, Teruo got released, and they're trying to get more info out of him. I suggest calling Knuckle Duster, but Pop says he'll punch first, and then he asks questions. So, we go instead. We suit up. She's hanging onto my arm because those platform shoes are not good for walking. A fan stops us for a photo Queen Hachisuka. Seems nice enough. Then we meet up with Ichimoku at a cafe. Jube and Teruo are off buying merch. And then, of course, Knuckle Duster just appears, reading a newspaper as if this is all part of his morning routine. Wants to join us. We're not sure that's a great idea. Cut to Queen ditching karaoke with her friends, running into an alley. Alone, she takes off her eye patch and then insects. Bees crawling out of her eye socket. Yeah, Queen's not just a fan, she's a villain. Queen Bee. Her quirk lets her control these things, and she floods Naruhata with them, stinging people and injecting Trigger. Suddenly, the whole district is on fire with quirk chaos. Back at the cafe, Knuckle Duster follows a lone bee. Pop and I see the smoke, and just as we're about to jump in, bam, pro heroes everywhere. All Might, Endeavor, Airjet, Ingenium, you name it. Instant villains mopped up in minutes. In the next scene, Knuckle Duster catches the bee, runs into Jube, asks if he saw anyone with a bee quirk. Jube says no. Knuckle Duster then crushes the bee with his bare hand. Somewhere far off, Queen Hachisuka clutches her eye, bleeding, and curses him under her breath. She recognizes him, not good. Teruo, somehow still around, sees Quinn and asks if she's okay. She smiles, grabs his hand, leads him into the dark. Later, we all regroup. Jube fills us in. Knuckle Duster's fuming. He knows we're missing the bigger picture. And me? I'm just trying to keep up. Late at night, it started with these three losers calling themselves the Three Sturm and Drang Brothers. Real classy name for guys sliding around town trying to sneak pics up skirts. Gross. Knuckle Duster had already made his introduction with his fists, and those pervs were down. Popstep was telling the crowd to call the cops, and I was checking for signs of Trigger, you know, that nasty drug that amps up quirks. No signs, but something was definitely off. Knuckle Duster didn't say much, just told us to keep moving. He'd been kinda intense ever since that bee quirk incident. Guy's always serious, but this was different. The next morning, he still got that look during our sparring session. I tried explaining how my style doesn't really match his old school boxing, and he just told me to figure out my own way to survive. Ouch. Then he came at me hard, too hard, really. Pop was worried, but I told her, he's holding back. If he really wanted to, he could knock someone into next week. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was going too far. Meanwhile, somewhere else, that shady Trigger supplier, Quinn, was getting chewed out by her boss. Apparently, they want better data, meaning more powerful villains. Great. So what does she do? That night, she jabs 3 vials of Trigger into some random angry guy and tells him to show society how he feels. Like, seriously? Next thing I know, this guy's charging straight at me, full rage monster mode. I barely dodged him. Pop started moving civilians to safety while I tried to stall. Just when I thought I was gonna eat a trigger-powered punch, Knuckle Duster came flying in literally and kicked the guy into a building. The fight didn't end there, though. This dude was juiced to the gills and throwing lightning punches. I suggested we keep our distance. But Knuckle Duster? Yeah, he went toe-to-toe with the guy. Took a beating but waited for the right moment, then boom! Put him down with a perfect counter. He got excited after. Said he missed having opponents that could put up a fight. Pop thinks he's crazy. Me? Kinda impressed. Kinda scared. Later, Queen's back at it, venting to her boss that we're getting in their way. Her boss, total psycho, thinks we're helping him by testing out his freaks. Queen is mad but plays along. Then she walks off with some blushing salaryman. Don't ask. Anyway, back on the streets, a villain with wings is tearing down the highway. Ingenium the Real Deal is on his tail. The guy even gets kicked into a wall mid-chase but laughs it off because he installed airbags in his suit. Actual airbags. Hero life, right? The next morning, I'm practicing my slide and glide, trying to figure out braking again. I pass a jogger and the guy catches up. Fast. Saves me from crashing into trash. Turns out he's Ingenium. We chat about quirks, and he gives me a tip that instantly fixes my biggest mobility issue. I've been struggling with this for years, and he solves it in 10 seconds. This guy is a genius. He even offered me a spot on his team after graduation, says slide and glide's perfect for rescue work. Then I told him I didn't have a license, and he offered a support staff role. Class act. Then he left. That night, Ingenium goes after the flying guy again, drops the airbags to go faster. Risky move, but that's who he is. Up ahead, his team set up a padded roadblock on the street, and he overtook the criminal and flew into it. As Ingenium turns to pin down the villain, the speeder unfurls his bat wings and flies off into the night and towards the eastern part of Naruhata. Despite their best efforts to corner and track him, the villain easily evades Team Idotten. But this time, we're waiting. I trip the guy. Knuckle Duster finishes the job. Ingenium and his team show up just in time to see us vanish into the night. Coolest exit ever. The next morning, Ingenium catches up with me on my jog. He figured it out, that I'm the crawler. I tried to deny it, but yeah, he knew. He just smiled and asked for his card back. He said I had already found my place. I didn't want to give it back, but I get it. Still, I was kind of heartbroken. He noticed, challenged me to a race, and took off before I could say yes. Of course, I chased him. One night, after some drinks with my college classmates, I invited them over to my place. Figured it'd be a nice way to bond real college life vibes. But the second I led them to my building, I could feel the mood go cold. I guess when your penthouse is at the top of a dark, busted-up building in Naruhata, people don't exactly see chill hangout vibes. They see creepy back-alley psycho. One of the girls tried to make an excuse and leave, but I might have made it worse by grabbing her hand and cheerfully dragging her toward the unlit doorway. She screamed like I was a horror movie monster. Word got around fast. Next thing I knew, I was that guy on campus. Total social death. After class, I'd try to look on the bright side. Hey, I had a big place to myself. It just felt way too empty. Thankfully, I had Knuckle Duster and Pop Step to keep things interesting. And annoying. Like Pop yelling at the old man for smoking indoors while he ignored her like she was background noise. I sat there thinking how lucky I was to have them. My life might have looked lame on paper, but it wasn't lonely anymore. A few months back, news broke about a serial killer named Iyaro Tenba. Pretty scary guy, but by the time the news aired, that problem had already been taken care of in an alley by some masked guy with a katana and eyes that could stop your heart cold. Anyway, back in the present, Pop dropped by again to chill and work on music. She used her spare key like it were her place. Got mad when I reminded her it was actually my house. And she stole my pudding. Again. She called me out for not labeling it. I forgave her. She got all flustered. The usual chaos. She teased me about my hoodie too. The one with All Might's logo? I told her it gave me courage. She called me frugal for sewing it up instead of buying new ones. So I flexed, literally. Pulled out drawers full of the same rare hoodie. Every era except one, the Silver Age. That one? I gave it away years ago when I was in middle school. I was rushing to take a hero entrance exam, totally lost, when I heard someone crying for help. A pink-haired kid had fallen in the river. I couldn't just leave him, so I dove in, boxers and all. Saved him. Gave him my hoodie to stay warm. but I missed the exam, and that was the day I gave up on being a hero. Sometimes I fantasize about that kid growing up into a big-time hero, giving interviews like, "This hoodie gave me the courage to stand up. A guy saved me, and I became a hero because of him." But Pop thought it was lame, so she stormed out before I could explain more. What I didn't know was that she was that kid, but she never told me. She slipped off a puddle while leaping over the river. It haunted her too. That's when I saved her. I became a hero for her. She stared at my hoodie sometimes when she felt like she needed a little courage of her own, but she never found the right time to tell me. That night she packed my hoodie, bought more pudding, came to my place, and she was about to say something. But Knuckle Duster was lounging around like it was his place, and, well, confession interrupted. Then Pop and Knuckle Duster were eating pudding when I asked what was inside the bag. She got mad at me. Then she bailed again. I was left confused. She put on the hoodie to comfort herself and promised herself she'd tell me next time. She just wished it was as easy as it sounded. The next day, Akira Iwako, a Trigger Instant villain, got released. Somehow, Queen, one of those creepy B-girl, handed him a new experimental drug TRD2C. He tore through the city like a monster. Pop and I jumped into action. I recognized him from their last encounter, but Knuckle Duster was off doing whatever shady business he always has. Pop and I planned to draw him out of the city, and then I told Pop to shout for the police using her microphone. We fought Akira off as best we could, but this new version was faster, harder, angrier. In a fast food point, Queen watches the fight through a bee, quietly jotting down notes on the TRD2C drug she gave Akira. Stronger aggression, boosted quirk, but not enough data. Her classmates interrupt, asking what she's up to. She coolly replies, "Just a report for my part-time job." Anyways, back to my fight, things got bad. I was about to get flattened when someone else stepped in. A masked man with a katana called himself Stendhal. Yeah, that's Stendhal. He was cold and precise. He didn't even flinch as he cut through Akira's defense. No damage, but enough to shake him. As Pop informed about the cop's arrival, Akira ran, and Stendhal vanished into the shadows like some kind of ghost ninja. Told me we'd meet again. The next day, while I was hyping up Stendhal to Knuckle Duster, Pop got a message from Ichimoku and Jube. They mentioned a legendary alum from Ichimoku's middle school, someone who admired our work and wanted to join the cause. I was pumped to team up with another covert hero and level up my game. But Knuckle Duster warned me about working with too many people like that, people who make up their own definitions of justice. Kinda rich coming from him, right? Later that evening, we met Soga again. Yep, the guy who tried to kill us once. He wanted to help now. Pop wasn't having it. Honestly, I didn't know what to think. Soga was annoyed and decided to leave. Meanwhile, Akira didn't get far. He was bleeding, hiding, and then Stendhal found him, took him apart piece by piece. Eyes, nerves, and his quirk weakened. Then came the judgment. "You use power without conviction," Stendhal told him. "That makes you a villain." And with one clean strike, Akira was gone. Stendhal had a list. Akira wasn't the only one. And up above, Queen watched with twisted fascination, already planning her next move. One night at a bar in Danto Ward, a few guys from this sketchy group called the Abagawa Tenchu Kai were having sake and grumbling about how they got labeled as a villain organization. Tetsu, one of the hot-headed ones, was really steamed about it. Meanwhile, Rojiya Yonanaga, this mellow guy with the dead fish eyes, didn't seem too fazed. Said something about how a man's way of life doesn't change just 'cause time does hero society or not. And to get this, Tetsu actually agreed with him. They toasted to being old-school scumbags. Anyway, later that night, Rojiya, Tetsu, and a couple of other guys, Soji and Haruhisa, were chilling at their HQ until he showed up. Stendhal. He literally came flying through the window. Glass everywhere. Chaos. The Yakuza guys went full-on quirk mode trying to beat him down. But Stendhal just stuck to the wall, licked these nasty bandages, and bam, blood curdle. They froze like mannequins. He cut through them like it was nothing. And when the backup came in, same story. All sliced up. Now, here's where it gets weirder. After all the carnage, Stendhal's cooling down in an alley, taking his uniform off like it's just another Tuesday. That's when Quinn, a creepy girl with an eye patch and a habit of popping up where she's not supposed to be, calls him Mr. Judgment. He wasn't having it. Said without the mask, he's just a guy. But with it, he's something bigger, like an idea or a force or whatever poetic metaphor he was rolling with that day. Queen didn't seem too rattled. She just handed him a list of his next victims, smiling like it was all a game. A few days later, Moyoru and Soga, those trigger-using thugs from before, visited Rapt in the hospital. Poor guy got smacked around badly in a previous skirmish. They smoked, cracked jokes, and talked about quirks and flying and how trigger messes with your body. You know, typical guy talk if your idea of typical includes performance-enhancing drugs and casual superpowers. Then Soga asked Rapt if he would like to fly again, but Rapt refused and said that this was the reason he ended up in the hospital. Then, that night, Quinn met Soga for another deal. No Moyoru, no Rapt, just him. She tried to tempt him again with more trigger, offering him a shot at fighting Stendhal directly, and then guess who showed up? Yeah, Stendhal. He was ready to cut Soga down right there. Quinn even gave the guy one last chance to power up with trigger and maybe live a few more minutes. Soga refused. He stood his ground, and credit where it's due, he tried, until Queen unleashed her bees from her eye. They stung Soga, but what really gets to Soga is Queen's cheerful, smug face as she walks off, just like the ones he's seen his whole life. From childhood friends and fearful strangers to scolding teachers and even me back when he made me grovel in that alley. Soga believes all this made him feel and turn to act like a monster. And here's where I come in. I was on patrol and heard screams in an alley. When I got there, I saw him and Stendhal. When I saw Soga, I freaked. Stendhal told me to back off, said he was executing justice. I told him he was being dramatic, which was okay. Maybe not the best line when a sword's out, but I tried to talk him down. It didn't work. The fight broke out fast. Soga launched spikes like crazy. Stendhal dodged him like it was choreography. Then he slashed Soga across the chest again and again. I had to stop it. I slid in between them and knocked Stendhal back, hoping to buy time to get Soga out of there, but Stendhal wasn't done. He tossed a knife, nailed me in the leg, and told me to stop interfering. I didn't listen. I grabbed Soga, used slide and glide to escape, aiming for a crowded street. Figured the guy wouldn't risk innocent lives, but before I could make it, Stendhal got a drop of my blood. And just like that, I was paralyzed, crashed to the ground, totally helpless. He walked over, sword raised, said no one would save us. But someone did. Knuckle Duster. He dropped in like a freight train towards Stendhal. He said he was here to protect me, and Soga too. Now Stendhal didn't hate Knuckle Duster, he thought they were alike. But Knuckle Duster, man, he let him have it. Knuckle Duster said he was nothing but a lunatic. Not a hero, not even close. They squared off. Knuckle Duster laid a trap with a grappling hook wire and dared Stendhal to cross it. But instead, he stepped over it himself. Wham! One punch, right to the mask, broke it. Stendhal fell, face exposed. Bleeding. I asked Knuckle Duster about the wire rule, and he said he never told Stendhal he couldn't step over it. Holding up the mask, he said people use masks to become someone else, and that makes them reckless. They're the first to toss aside morals, but crack the mask, and they come crashing back to reality. But Stendhal, he wasn't done yet. Stendhal now understands something after listening to Knuckle Duster's words. He got back up, traded some blows, cut Knuckle Duster, then jumped up the side of a building, ranting about fake heroes and the path to justice. He licked his knife again, paralyzed Knuckle Duster, and he thanks Knuckle Duster for setting him straight, then leaps onto a building and vanishes into the night. Popstep showed up after. She helped to patch us up, even Soga, though she wasn't thrilled about it. Soga asked why I was being so forgiving, and Pop just called me dumb as usual. Soga didn't get it, but something in him shifted. Maybe not much, but a little. As for Stendhal, he was bleeding out in some dingy apartment, ranting to himself about power and resolve and masks. Queen teased him, and he just bam threw a knife right into her eye. And then Stendhal sliced off his own nose, said he didn't need a mask anymore. He's still out there, walking around with that face and that belief that his blood trail is the new path to justice. I still don't know what kind of world he thinks he's building. Meanwhile, Queen sits up unfazed as her bees blocked the fatal blow. Annoyed by Stendhal's betrayal and smug talk, she calls him a narcissist, but admits she's still enjoying the chaos too much to strike back. Okay, so college, it's rough. I've been running on fumes lately, and trying to keep my eyes open in class has become my new full-time job. Once the lecture ends, and I'm scarfing down lunch while frantically scribbling notes for a test that I slept through the lesson for. That's when she shows up, Makoto Tsukauchi. She's from my class, and yeah, she's kinda hard to miss. She walks right up to me like we're already friends, greets me, and plops down next to me like it's the most natural thing in the world. She notices my textbook, Hero Sociology, and comments on my impressive multitasking skills. Then she flips through the book and rips into it. Not in a mean way, more like, this book is solid but the writing's a mess. Can't say I disagree. She suggests borrowing notes from someone in a club who's taken the class already. I awkwardly admit I'm not in any club, and she jokes that I must be some loner then. Then she says she'll take care of me. Not sure what that meant exactly. Turns out, she's done her homework on me. Knows my name, Major, and, yeah, she even drops that nickname, the Creeper of the East Naruhata Ruins. Just great. She says she wants someone to show her around that area and offers to help me study in return. Honestly, not the worst deal I've heard. The next day, I took her up to my place. By place, I mean our makeshift rooftop penthouse. Pop Step's already there, lounging like she owns the place. When she sees me bringing a girl up, she freaks dives behind her curtain with her stuff like she's on some spy mission. I try to play it cool and ask Makoto to wait outside while I clean up. She teases me about it, but lets it slide. Inside, it's chaos. Pop's shoes, her bag, Knuckle Duster's empty cans. It's a mess. I do what any sensible guy would do. Toss everything behind the curtain, including the hoodie that gives away my secret identity. And I may have accidentally beamed Pop in the head with some of that stuff. Sorry, Pop. Once things look less like a trash heap, Makoto comes in, asks for my course schedule, and I try to act like I know what I'm doing while brewing us coffee. Meanwhile, Pop is baring her teeth at Makoto through the curtain like a feral cat. Makoto's scary organized. She sorts my classes into neat little piles, final exam focused, assignment heavy, and attendance is king. Then she starts tagging pages and flipping through the hero sociology textbook like she's prepping for a war strategy. We get into chapter 3, and suddenly I'm neck deep in the history of vigilantism. Apparently, back in the day, people with quirks used to fight crime on their own. No licenses, no fancy costumes, just folks trying to help during chaotic times. Some eventually got absorbed into the system. Most, not so lucky. Makoto explains how the hero system didn't start to encourage heroism. It was more about defining what made someone a villain so they could be legally hunted down. She's clearly passionate about it, tagging my book like a madwoman while Pop huffs behind the curtain. Then she hits me with a bonus question. What decides whether a vigilante becomes a hero or a villain? I take a swing and say, following the law? She laughs and says the real answer is part of her personal thesis. Says she'll tell me once I help with her Naruhata tour. Sneaky. Turns out she's doing field research on vigilantes. She wants first-hand data, and I gotta play it cool. I tell her the vigilantes in Naruhata have been active, but it's dangerous stuff. She slaps a hand on my shoulder and says she's not worried. She's got me as a bodyguard. Yeah, I may have blushed, just a little. After she leaves, I'm riding the high of having plans with her, until Pop jumps out and starts yelling about my stupid face. It's not my fault I smiled, okay? That night, she's typing away at home, and her brother, Naomasa Tsukuchi, that guy gets home. She tries to squeeze him for case details, but he shuts her down. Says it's dangerous. And yeah, maybe she pushes a bit too hard. She's got this idea that the line between hero and villain isn't as clear as people think. Her brother doesn't disagree, but he's clearly worried. A few days later, Knuckle Duster's helping me work on my new move. High-speed double sweep. It's a flashy combo of slides and sweeps with some extra flair. He's impressed. Pop, not so much. She says it's weird and cowardly, which is rich coming from the girl who dives behind curtains. I told Knuckle Duster about Makoto, and he gave me the look. The one that says, this could be trouble. He even jokes about silencing her, which, yeah, no thanks. I promise him I've got it under control, hopefully. Saturday rolls around. I meet Makoto at the station, and she looks good, really good. Pop's full-on stalking us in costume, mumbling that she's average at best. Jealousy level, maximum. Makoto's got maps marked with vigilante sightings. She wants to do public interviews to see what people really think. Her theory? Popularity might be what separates heroes from villains. It's not law, it's perception. Wild, right? We meet kids, vendors, and fanboys. Ichimoku and Jube are there too. They fangirl over Pop, call Knuckle Duster scary, and say I'm creepy. Or rather, the Cruller is creepy. It's Crawler. Then, someone snatches Makoto's laptop. Penguin-faced villain, Emperor Yotsura. Quirk makes him a soccer god or something. I toss Makoto her camcorder and chase after the guy. Pop jumps in, telling me to let it go. It'd solve our Makoto problem. But nah, I'm not that kind of hero. I suit up and take off. I try to catch him using my new move, but he bounces his ball off my face. Not my finest moment. Thankfully, Ichimoku and Jube zap him. The laptop is about to fall, and I dive to grab it. Makoto shows up, and I'm back in civilian mode, pretending I just tripped. She suspected I helped, and I played it cool say. The crawler stepped in. She seems impressed. Later, she pulls a sneaky move, grabs my hand, and asks if I'm the crawler. Her quirk, polygraph, kicks in, but since she used the wrong name, it reads as true. Lucky me. That night, she's sulking over her missed instinct, while I'm stuck reading more survey comments about how creepy I am. I complain that no one gets my name right. Pop calls me a loser. And Knuckle Duster? He is chilling with cigarettes and reading newspapers. So, this one started in broad daylight with me, the crawler, chasing down a motorcycle thief through the streets of Naruhata. Popstep was right behind me, yelling that I should leave it to the cops. Totally fair, but something in me just didn't want to let the guy get away. I figured I'd tail him, keep tabs, and hand him over to the pros when they showed up. Next thing I know, the guy kicks me mid-chase. I go tumbling, skidding across the pavement, and suddenly there's a truck headed right for me. That's when this giant shadow swoops in and grabs me like I'm some kind of sack of laundry. He tosses me onto the sidewalk and then just one punches the biker villain like it's a joke. I barely even get time to recover before this shiny flying musclehead is floating above us, hoisting both the villain and his bike. Turns out, he is a captain celebrity, and the first thing he says to me, "Leave this kind of work to the pros, pal." I thanked him because, well, he did save me. But when I asked who he was, he said, "You don't know me?" Then he autographed my All Might hoodie without even asking. He says his signature's worth more than All Might merch. I told him maybe I should decide what my stuff is worth. He laughed, called All Might boring, floated off with the villain and his ride, leaving Pop confused and me very, very irritated. Back at the penthouse, we caught a report about the guy. Turns out, he's officially moving his hero operations from the US to Japan. The news made him sound like a superstar, but Knuckle Duster? He wasn't buying it. Called him Captain Catastrophe. Said the guy's a lawsuit magnet, mostly because of lady problems, and fleeing to Japan was probably his way of dodging them, while I angrily scrubbed his autograph off my hoodie, and just when I thought I was done with him. A kaiju-level villain is rampaging through the city. The guy was huge and on trigger. Another one of those shady experiments Quinn was cooking up, apparently. Pop and I were out there doing our best. She is warning civilians, me ushering people to safety. That's when I spotted this little girl yelling about someone named Masahiko being left behind. Captain Celebrity shows up again, and I give him the rundown. The kid's dog is still in the danger zone, but instead of jumping into action, he hesitates and says the press isn't ready, support staff needs to queue him in, and the cops haven't given a formal request, so he technically can't help. So, I slide off and go save the dog myself. Meanwhile, he waits for his team to set up his heroic entrance countdown, theme music, everything. Finally, he dives into the fray, looking like a fireworks display with fists. I dodged falling debris while yelling Masahiko until I found a doghouse. Masahiko was the puppy, not a person. I scooped him up, bolted through the chaos, and nearly got crushed again until Captain Celebrity swooped me and the pup to a nearby park, where a full media circus was waiting. The dude set up cameras and reporters mid-battle, and then he signed my hoodie again. Later, while the staff cleaned up and the news celebrated his 100 civilian rescues, I was still steamed. But then that little girl ran up to Masahiko and hugged him like her life depended on it. She thanked the crawler for the rescue. Close enough. Captain Celebrity, for once, gave me credit for something. Then he asked me to clear out because my outfit was hurting his image. I hate that guy. Still, it didn't stop there. A few nights later, a building was close to collapsing. I snuck in to make sure no one was left and found a woman and a huge dude stuck inside. No way I could carry both. Then the glitzy savior floats in and says we should team up. His idea of teamwork? Me lugging the giant guy to safety while he princess carries the girl and flirts with her the whole time. I told him he should have carried the big guy. He's stronger. But nope. Optics, he said. Then the rubble started falling on me again, but he saved me and flexed for the cameras. Again. Then he literally brought in lights and cheerleaders to tear down the building in style. Pop, meanwhile, was impressed. Said maybe she could use a little of that showbiz in her idol work. Me? I thought it was overkill. But I couldn't lie, I was jealous. And then I noticed Makoto as one of the cheerleaders. When Makoto saw us, we didn't want to blow our cover, so we ran away. I swear Captain Sparkles laid it on thick, called her Fiery, gave her his real name, Christopher Skyline, and invited her to lunch. She agreed and booked a reservation for lunch. Popstep and I were secretly watching when Knuckle Duster appeared to give us a quick history lesson on Skyline's many scandals, most involving women, including a messy lawsuit from his wife. Apparently the guy just never learns. A few days later, Makoto is waiting for her lunch meeting. Pop and I are tailing her. I said it was to protect her. Pop said I was being dumb. Then Christopher spotted us and Makoto called us over. I pretended we ran into them by coincidence, but it didn't work. As he whisked Makoto away, I sulked. While relaxing at a rooftop restaurant, Makoto gets a news alert about a bank robbery involving a dolphin-faced gunman. Christopher brushes it off, saying the only thing that matters to him is getting to know her better. But things took a turn when she got a call from his wife, Pamela. Turns out Makoto contacted her last week. She asked about that secluded spot he was trying to lure her to, and the man bolted mid-date to handle a bank robbery just to avoid further interrogation. At the robbery, Pop and I were corralled with the crowd. I didn't even have my gear on to help. Captain Celebrity zoomed in, KO'd the dolphin-faced robber, and then begged me to come with him. Why? For photos, to prove to his wife that he wasn't being sleazy. I got roped into a hostage-looking group selfie. I complained, and he pouted. But Makoto, she lit up and said this was the perfect opportunity to rebrand him. And the next day, there he was on the news floating awkwardly in front of a flag while a bunch of middle school boys and girls chanted his name. Rebranding in progress, I guess. Just when things couldn't get weirder, I got a call from my dad. Mom was coming to Tokyo. I cue panic mode. I tore around the penthouse trying to clean everything. Told Pop my mom strict hates city life and especially hates liars, which was a problem because I may have told her I had a girlfriend. Pop turned tomato red. After a whole flustered exchange, she stormed out just as my mom showed up. And there I was pouring tea and praying my mom wouldn't find out I'm a vigilante. Makoto Tsukuchi showed up at my penthouse pretending to be my girlfriend. I thanked her, trying to keep the nerves off my face, and she just smiled and said she'd cash in a favor later. My mom, Shoko Himawari, seemed impressed, until she wasn't. Next thing I know, I'm getting swatted from across the room like a bug. Turns out Mom figured it out instantly. She's way out of your league. She laid into me about lying, and then she decided to take me back home, forever. I was sweating bullets when Makoto stepped in, covering for me. Said I was doing great in school and maybe she'd consider dating me for real? My heart stopped, but Mom wasn't buying the act. Still, she liked Makoto, a little too much. Talked about marrying her into the family. Just when I thought things couldn't get more awkward, Pop walked in, dressed like she was trying something new, and blushing like crazy. She tried to leave, but I begged her to stay. Play up my popularity. She nudged me hard in the gut and introduced herself as Kazuho Hanayama. I didn't even know her real name until that moment. Kind of a surprise, but I rolled with it. Can't let Mom know I hang out with vigilantes. Of course, that made Mom and Makoto curious about what she was to me. I had nothing, no good answer. And then the front door opens and Knuckle Duster walks in. But this time he's clean-shaven and wearing a suit. My brain almost exploded. Mom and Makoto both swooned. "Who's that handsome man?" they said. Turns out, he introduced himself with his real name, Takeshi Kuroiwa, and gave them both business cards. Real, legit ones. He claimed we all worked together on non-profit stuff in Naruhara. Technically true, if you squint hard enough. He even mentioned using my rooftop to teach me self-defense. Makoto got a little too friendly. I mean, she poked his biceps. Meanwhile, Kazuho looked like she was gonna throw up. Makoto guessed he used to be a cop or a hero, which made Mom freak out. She hates heroes. Said they get used up and forget their families. Mentioned how I used to idolize All Might, failed my entrance exam, and even fell into a river once. Kazuho tried to defend me, but got flustered when everyone stared, and then Mom scared her into running off. I tried telling Mom she was being scary, got smacked again, and got sent to chase after her. Makoto advised I compliment her. I caught Kazuho before she fell on the stairs and told her she looked casual. Yeah, real smooth, Koichi. She slapped me and left. The next day I went sightseeing in Tokyo with Mom and Makoto. I was totally calm. Just doing what Dad always said. Stay cool until the storm passes. Saw some sweet All Might hoodies. Almost got scolded for wanting one, but snuck back to buy it. Worth it. On the tour bus, Mom told Makoto she wanted to swap me out and adopt her. That stung. But before I could cry in peace, a random cat on the roof got injected with trigger by one of Queen's bees and turned into a giant mutant bus cat. It merged with the bus we were on and went totally berserk. Meanwhile, Queen's watching from a cafe like it's all part of her evil sightseeing plan. The cat bus took off and suddenly, we were zooming through Tokyo like a horror movie on wheels. Knuckle Duster saw it all and was gonna leave it to the heroes until he realized we were inside. Then he called Kazuho for backup. She grumbled at first, but the moment she heard what was happening, she sprang into action. Showed up as Pop Step with duct tape and a duster like it was totally normal. Ingenium arrived too, ripped off the door and tried to slow things down. He saw me and I played dumb. The driver tells Ingenium he can't brake or steer, and the out-of-control vehicle heads straight for the shopping district. Just as disaster looms, the monster cat veers off course, drawn to a giant cat toy. I looked ahead and there they were. Knuckle Duster and Pop step ahead, using the decoy to lure it away from the crowds. A Team E-Dayton truck catches up to the runaway bus, and Enigma uses her gigantification quirk to safely transfer the passengers into the truck. But when things got worse, and Makoto was the last person left on the bus, and they needed someone fast, I had no choice. I suited up in my new hoodie and volunteered. Mom tried to swap me into staying, but I told her I had to do this. She saw it in my face. I wasn't backing down. I zipped after Ingenium and gave him his fuel. He agreed to let me help with supervision. I played bait, led the cat away, but the hoodie's dangly hair distracted it. It jumped at me, and bam! Ingenium kicked it. The bus goes flying. Now we're running out of road. Makoto's still inside. He's low on juice. No more time. I didn't even think. I just ran. My mask blew off. I got to the bus, grabbed Makoto, and jumped. We were falling fast. And then, something happened. My quirk changed. I was flying. Not gliding, flying. I kicked off the air and soared. I reached Ingenium just in time. He caught Makoto and I landed roughly, but we lived. Quinn slinked off with her cat, and we didn't even notice. Later, Mom told Kuroiwa that when I was a baby, I used to float. She used to swat me down so I wouldn't fly out the window. Maybe all those years of getting swatted made me forget what I was really capable of. Kuroiwa just said, kids always fly off eventually. Back at the penthouse, Mom said she was going home. I tried to act cool about it, got smacked again. She told everyone to watch over me, hit me if necessary. Kuroiwa agreed without hesitation. Then she asked Makoto if she'd consider dating me for real. I wanted to die. Makoto blushed and said she'd think about it. Kazuho did not look okay. The next day, I tried training. Pop measured my jump height, which is 30 centimeters. She said maybe I'd hit 50 one day. I grumbled. I said, but I was flying yesterday. She said I imagined it. I told her it was the Asakusa hoodie magic. An unmasked Knuckle Duster is sitting beside his wife in a hospital gown. She wasn't saying much, just staring out the window like the rest of the world had faded away. He started talking to her in a soft voice. He said things were tough for both of them, but there were still some parts of his life he looked forward to. He'd picked up a few hobbies, made some friends even. Then a nurse came in and called them Mr. and Mrs. Oguro. His whole vibe shifted when the doctor started talking about her condition. Something about her brain not recovering the way they hoped. But he wasn't really listening. His eyes kind of glazed over like he'd gone somewhere else. Back to that moment he found her at home. Collapsed. Bees everywhere, and Quinn Hachisuka just standing there, smiling like she'd won something. Meanwhile, across town, Soga was staking out Quinn's school. He had this old photo of her from middle school and was showing it to anyone who'd stop long enough to look. Pretty bold move, really, though it mostly just creeped people out. Her friends even started thinking he was some kind of weirdo trying to pick up girls. Teachers showed up and he got chased off. But then, one of those girls who noticed Quinn suddenly vanish found Soga later in an alleyway. She was acting all flirty and weird, but Soga, he was all business, said he was just running an errand for someone else. Then she started lifting her skirt. Soga freaked out, but before it got any worse, a swarm of bees came pouring out from under her uniform. Yep, it was Quinn's doing. But this time Soga was ready. Whipped out a can of insecticide, stabbed it open with his claws, and made himself a personal fog machine. He burst out into the street, coughing, with bees hot on his tail until a blast of flames torched a bunch of them. Rapt and Moyuru, those punks had rolled on bikes like action heroes. Moyuru's ignition quirk lit up the swarm, while Rapt tossed Soga a helmet and told him to hop on. Soga and the others rushed ahead at full speed, while Quinn's bees followed closely behind them. In the waiting room, Soga was sitting. Apparently, Knuckle Duster was going by Takeshi Kuroiwa now, which made it hard for Soga to get in touch. He asked for a real name, but of course, Knuckle Duster brushed it off, said not to stick his nose where it didn't belong. Soga gave him what he dug up about Quinn's school and alias. Knuckle Duster seemed to already suspect the name was fake, but thanked him anyway. Soga asked about me and Kazuho, but Knuckle Duster said there is no need to drag me and Pop because of how loud and unpredictable we are. Knuckle Duster said Soga and others are better suited for this kind of work. Soga wasn't thrilled about that and straight up called him out. So naturally, Knuckle Duster told him, would he wear an All Might hoodie and act like me? Soga spat on the idea. Later in the evening, Soga and others are at the park. Rapt and Moyuru were trying to talk some sense into him. Told him to stay away from Knuckle Duster and Trigger. And that's where I come in, just trying to say, hey. Pop showed up too, yelling about me putting myself in danger. Rapt made a crack about her outfit being more revealing than my presence was dangerous, and those two started squabbling. But Soga didn't say anything and left. That night, Quinn walked into what she called home, and her parents were just corpses, some poor couple she'd killed. She told them about the stalker at school, tossed her dad a used-up credit card, and settled in for snacks and TV like nothing was wrong. She saw news about the girl she used Queen Bee on, and said she was bored with Naruhata. In a warehouse, Knuckle Duster trains alone. During a quick break, he smiles at a photo of middle school Queen and promises to see her soon. The next morning, Kazuho got an email on her Popstep blogging offer to perform on the Marikane department store rooftop. Pretty big deal. I told her it was awesome, but she got all tense. Said she wasn't ready for something that professional. If I'm too supportive, I come off as generic. If I'm not supportive enough, I seem like a jerk. So, I asked Knuckle Duster what he thought, and that lit a fire under Kazuho real fast. But he told her straight, better to try and fail than not try at all. Then he flicked her with his newspaper and told her she's got this. So, we called in Makoto. I figured she could help with planning, and yeah, maybe I shouldn't have told her about Pop's secret identity. But she already knew, thanks to that monster cat mess. After some back and forth, the girls agreed to work together. Makoto reviews the offer, noting the 300-person capacity and outdoor food court, calling it more a dinner and show than a full concert. Meanwhile, a flying crab villain is quickly taken down by Captain Celebrity, cheered on by his new posse of reformed middle schoolers, despite his discomfort with the image shift. After handling the villain, Captain Celebrity gets a call from Makoto about a chance to boost his local image. Though she's vague, he trusts her and tells her to handle it and brief him later. With the heroes okay, Makoto books Kazuho's appearance at the department store, leaving room for adjustments to support her performance. Later, we met up with Ichimoku and Jubei. They were hyped and promised to bring friends. Kazuho went shy again. I said things would work out. She punched me. Meanwhile, Quinn saw the flyer and almost wrote off the concert. But just then for a second, she winced. Like something hurt her. She mumbles something about the old man's dumb face getting in her head. She might just crash the show after all. One of her classmates asked about the girl who had disappeared. Quinn pretended not to know anything. Meanwhile, Knuckle Duster was watching from a rooftop, wearing his intense goggles and smiling as if he knew something we didn't. He remarked that he was glad she was still buzzing around. Kazuho and I arrived at Marikane to meet Makoto, who introduced us to the stylish twin idols, Miu and U-Feathers. Feeling out of place, Kazuho nervously introduced herself, while I stood by awkwardly in my role as her manager. Makoto told us to chill for a bit while the rest of the performers showed up, which would have been fine if Miu and Yu didn't start whispering under their breath. Something about Pop's street clothes and Kazuho practically shrank into her hoodie. Then, the East Naruhata High Dance Squad walked in with full-on energy and zero paperwork. Makoto raised a brow about their missing costume info, but the squad captain said all they needed was heart, rhythm, and freedom of movement. Honestly, kinda inspiring. Case in point, the next group to show up was the Mad Hatters, a rock band with a lead singer who apparently hates doing anything that smells like selling out. He was mid-rant when he crossed eyes with the dance squad captain, and boom. Instant chemistry like rom-com first meet. Just like that, he stopped complaining, and she suddenly decided that, hey, costumes are cool now. Makoto eventually gathered everyone and laid out the plan. Dance Squad, Mad Hatters are easy placements. But Feathers and Popstep? That was the tricky part. Makoto floated the idea of putting Kazuho center stage with Feathers flanking her. Feathers didn't take that well. Said they didn't sign up to be backup dancers for someone who couldn't sing, and Makoto agreed with them. Said Kazuho's vocals weren't great, but defended her charisma and crowd-pulling power. Anyway, Makoto shelved the debate and gave out the weekly assignments. Kazuho was told to practice her solo. Feathers, dance drills with the squad captain. It wasn't exactly an uplifting day, but Makoto wrapped things up with a solid pep talk. All 11 of you are the stars of the show, so act like it. Back at our penthouse, Kazuho got the music files and dove into practice mode. I cheered her on, told her she got this, and she said she had to nail it, or she'd just be a leaping distraction in the corner. I told her she could use our place as her personal studio, no questions asked. Then Pop and the others begin practicing for their rehearsal. A few days later, big ol' moth larva villain starts climbing a building, but Captain Celebrity drops him in one shot. Guy made sure to plug Narufest mid-rescue. That man's got showmanship down to a science. Then disaster hit during training. Miu, one half of Feathers. She twisted her ankle during dance practice. She'd be okay by showtime, but no heavy movement. The squad captain blamed herself. Makoto told her that pushing everyone too hard just backfired. The debate was whether to cut Miu from the act or sideline her movement. Miu looked like she was about to cry. That's when Kazuho stepped up, suggested putting Miu in the center and having you cover the movement. She even offered to leap around to fill in the blanks. It was gutsy, and it worked. Miu teared up, but the plan was solid. Everyone got to do what they were best at. Later, while the choreography got reworked, the Mad Hatter's frontman waltzed in and zeroed in on the squad captain, who had a new haircut. I tried to break the ice by complimenting her and promptly got glared at for saying she looked unrecognizable. Not my finest hour. Meanwhile, in a shady part of town, Queen was eyeing a flyer for Narufest and hatching a plan. She wanted to spice things up with a surprise villain attack, and her guest of honor, Teruo. Poor guy had been turned into some hulking eel monster and was just muttering "pop step" over and over. Fast forward to the day of the event. Narufest started strong. Enka singer Harusaburo Nanboku closed the daytime block. Present Mike hyped up the hero guests and the big nighttime stage show, featuring a newly named group, Featherhats. In the green room, Miu gave the half-hour warning. Kazuho's nerves spiked, and when I tried giving her a generic pep talk, Miu straight up socked me. Squad captain stepped in to cool things off, and I'm being myself said something about how she looked different with makeup. Got the whole room mad again. Seriously, someone needs to revoke my talking privileges before events. And then midnight walked in. I barely got a word out before Pop hit me for staring too hard. Makoto apologized for the cramped green room, but Midnight just said it reminded her of school festivals. Present Mike showed up too, and they started talking about who from the hero crowd made it. Eraserhead was a maybe. Endeavor thought it was a waste of time. Ingenium was too busy. All Might, not happening. Midnight figured Aizawa would flake, and yeah, he probably would. Out in the streets, Aizawa, aka Eraserhead, was already prowling. He wasn't thrilled about attending, but fate intervened when a villain showed up screaming for Pop. It was Teruo. Still huge, still dripping mucus. Aizawa tried to shut him down, but Teruo's transformation didn't budge under Eraserhead. Things got worse. His eel body let him slip through every hold, and then, boom! He unleashed a blackout-inducing electric burst across Naruhata. Queen, of course, loved it, until her boss called and told her to stand down. No public stunt. No heat. She obeyed, but not without grumbling. The Knuckle Duster showed up. He stepped out of the shadows and called her by name, Tamao Oguro. His daughter? The guy was shaking, but he meant business. Said he came to bring her home. She played dumb, but he wasn't buying it. Things got heated, fast. She dodged his punches. He landed a knuckle to her cheek. She fired off exploding bees. He powered through and called her bluff and said the more bees she made, the weaker they got. He was right. With her swarm depleted, she bailed, hopping the rail and disappearing into the night. Knuckle Duster, unfazed, gives chase with his grappling hook, gliding through the dark city and wondering how far the villain can run. Narufest was set to be huge feathers debuting as feather hats, big guests, tons of hype, then bam, blackout thanks to a trigger-amped villain named Teruo. Perfect timing. While heroes kept the crowd calm, Eraserhead told Makoto that he had caught Teruo but couldn't come since he had to wait for the cops. Worse, he thought Narufest might get cancelled. Midnight said the Transformers were fried, and the backup power wasn't enough for a concert. Heroes were tapped out, just crowd control and maybe an evacuation. That's when Captain Celebrity swooped in, carrying 2 civilians. And like magic, that gave Makoto an idea. She was rallying the crew. Her boss went to hunt down more generators, and she asked Present Mike to entertain the crowd. But you know, hero rules. Present Mike couldn't officially perform. Safety first. And that's when I slid in, your friendly neighborhood crawler. I showed up with Popstep's mic in hand, and a suggestion. Why not let her take the mic? After all, she's no stranger to working in a crowd, whether it's concerts or calming people during villain attacks. Plus, with the show on the line, Pop hesitated at first, but she took the job. Makoto handed her an earpiece for updates and told her all she had to do was keep the audience engaged for half an hour. No big deal, right? Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Knuckle Duster was still chasing Quinn through Naruhata's alleys when he got a call from the hospital bad news about his wife. But like always, the guy didn't skip a beat, apologized for the background noise, said he'd be there soon, then leapt off to keep up the chase. Back at Narufest, there she was center stage nervous, but determined. Despite a shaky start, she nailed it, kept the crowd calm, cracked some smiles, even sang a little. Her loyal fans like Ichimoku and Jubi backed her up. Feathers Miu whispered to her sister that she felt a little jealous, but even she admitted Pop looked cute up there. Can't argue with that. Pop's voice echoed down the street, and guess who started crying when he heard it? Teruo. But Eraserhead saw something nasty wriggling on the guy's back. One of Queen's bees. It was sucking the trigger out of Teruo like a mosquito, and then flew off before Eraserhead could catch it. Elsewhere, Knuckle Duster cornered Quinn in a dead end. She wasn't going down without a fight, of course. She pumped herself full of trigger from her own bees. The queen bee quirk's already messed up, forming a hive mind between the host and the bees. But trigger fries your brain, weakening that link. That's when parts of the host start slipping through the cracks. As she transformed, covered in reddish-purple skin, Tamao, his daughter, started yelling at Knuckle Duster. Not Queen, her. All the old resentment burst out. Their fights, her music, everything he never understood. Knuckle Duster didn't fight back with words, just told her to let it all out. Said he'd always been bad at listening, that's why he screwed up. She came at him with claws and lightning, juiced up from Teruo's stolen power. She got him, stabbed straight through the chest. He dropped hard, fading fast, but noticed she still had style, even as a villain. Her shock burned her arm, but she pushed on, unaware that Knuckle Duster's fingers were twitching. He wasn't done yet. Back at the store, Makoto tells Pop the power's back, and she cheers to the crowd. Featherhats hits the stage with a rock remix of the Maracane jingle, instantly reigniting the crowd's energy. Just when Queen staggered near the street, trying to crash the concert, he showed up barely alive. And he wasn't letting her go anywhere. He told her to stop listening to the bees in her head, told her she could still have her own stage. Quinn didn't want to hear it, but he wasn't backing down this time. They fought again. She with her bomb bees and lightning, and Knuckle Duster with fists and pure stubbornness. Eventually, Knuckle Duster saw through the rage. He recognized the exact look on her face from the night she left home. That pain. He knew it because he caused it. This time, he didn't push her away and didn't yell. He fought to bring her back. And in the end, one clean punch to the gut, followed by a taser hook to the chest. Simple and effective. Quinn crumpled, her heart giving out. She tried to shock herself back with Teruo's power, but Knuckle Duster stomped her arm. Her bees scattered, and her body was shutting down. Then he did the unthinkable. Dug into her eye socket with tweezers and pulled out the real culprit, the queen bee. He chucked it into the street, set a pheromone trap, and boom. Bye-bye bug problem. It's all part of a backup plan he cooked up with Guran, of all people. He had a taser outfitted with a defibrillator, used it to restart his heart after Quinn zapped him, and now he was using it to save her. Told Guran that sometimes people stop hearts, and sometimes they start them. Pretty poetic for a guy who usually solves problems with his fists. As he worked to bring her back, he performed chest compressions and shocks, hoping to help her see her mom again. Teruo eventually got arrested, but he was still sobbing as the Featherhats rocked the stage. Eraserhead even let him stay a few more minutes to hear the music. And when Naomasa showed up, the Eraserhead brought up something interesting. He didn't think Teruo was a regular trigger bender. There was something off, especially with the bee he saw on him. Naomasa took an interest in it. While they talked, that creepy trigger dealer Stendhal, with his ponytail, scars, and fake cop uniform, snuck around. He caught one of Kuin's escaped bees in a jar with a glowing quirk and muttered, "The many have now been reduced to one." I was sorting laundry in the penthouse when I heard Kazuho squealing rewatching Featherhats' Narufest set for the 100th time. Fan mail was everywhere, with notes from Ichimoku and Jube. She says physical letters feel more special to them. She twirled around like she was still on stage, grinning at her phone, then flopped onto the couch, exhausted. Not long after that, I ran into trouble. A praying mantis-looking villain was tearing up the street. Then I jumped in as the crawler to slow him down, which really meant distract him until someone stronger shows up. Because once he started chasing me, I knew I was gonna need backup. I shouted, "Pop, call a hero," even though I was already sliding for my life. She was way ahead of me. Captain Celebrity swooped down like a missile from heaven and floored the guy with one punch. I thanked him for the save, but he gave me this big old grin and said I was helping too, keeping watch over Naruhata and doing the grunt work before heroes could step in. He threw an arm around me and said, "We need to talk about how we do things." Back at the penthouse, that conversation turned into a bit of a lecture. Christopher said he didn't like how I handled villains and how I mostly lured them away or stalled them. I explained that not everyone can go head-to-head like he can, so some of us help however we can. He eventually agreed, only because it makes his life easier. Kazuho asked Christopher to do another Narufest day. He refused no pay, bad schedule. She argued that no one at Featherhats was paid either. I mentioned Makoto, and he ranted about wannabe heroes. Right then, Makoto called. He begged me to stay quiet, but I told her he was here. She burst in, he hid behind Kazuho's curtain, got kicked in the face, and was dragged off to work. Later, while Kazuho was brushing her hair, she brought up some of the stuff Captain Celebrity said about us being more careful. I agree, we've been facing more dangerous instant villains lately, ones that don't even revert to normal. Kazuho asked if there was a surge in villain activity in Naruhata. I honestly didn't know. With Knuckle Duster gone, there was nobody to give us the big picture. Then a thought crossed my mind. Should I start carrying a weapon? I'd fantasized about using a katana after that whole Stendhal situation. But Kazuho wasn't thrilled. She reminded me that no one was forcing me to fight. I should stick to what I'm good at and help heroes and civilians in my own way. Meanwhile, Eraserhead, Midnight, and Detective Naomasa were looking into something way bigger. Naomasa had been digging into this theory about a new kind of villain stronger, more mutated than any trigger user we'd seen. He brought up Teruo, who'd turned into a monster. His body had tons of trigger in it, way more than should have been survivable. Eraserhead thought they were being pumped full of drugs. Naomasa thought the opposite, that someone had modified them to survive it. It looked like some group was behind it all. The next morning, Kazuho kicked off another day of Narufest with a community music show. Meanwhile, Ingenium and Captain Celebrity were filming a commercial about highway reconstruction. Naturally, Captain Celebrity wanted a retake because his hair flapped wrong. While the camera crew groaned, a scarred man quietly watched nearby. At the department store, Miyu warns the sisters not to treat Narufest like a talent show there might be heroes watching. Then she panics when Pop says Captain Celebrity can't make it, realizing she just lied to the girls. When one of them asks which hero is coming, Miyu doubles down, calling it a surprise. I walk in, and Miyu gets an idea. Pop immediately begs her not to do it. Next thing I knew, I was on stage. Miyu and Yu shoved me out as the special guest hero after Captain Celebrity bailed. Pop tried to stop them, but too late. No script, no plan, I panicked and sang. I sang the same song the sisters had just performed. Miyu and Yu were dying behind the curtain, but the girls still clapped and said they appreciated the effort. Then one of them asked, "So, when's the real hero showing up?" As Ingenium and Captain Celebrity prepare themselves for another take on the commercial, while the camera crew groans, the scarred man then activates something. And then something happened. A truck burst into the set, and a familiar bat-faced villain, now looking even more monstrous, shot out like a missile. Captain Celebrity caught the flying vehicles just in time. Ingenium recognized the villain and went in for the grab, but the guy knocked him aside and took off, heading straight for me and Knuckle Duster. Captain Celebrity took off after him, but couldn't keep up. The bat villain heard me singing, and the villain dive-bombed the department store, grabbed me mid-note, and took off. But slowing down to snatch me gave Captain Celebrity the opening he needed. He caught up, knocked the guy out cold, and saved me before I hit the pavement. He landed like a champ. The crowd cheered, and yeah, they finally got the pro-hero appearance they'd been waiting for. Back home, I found Knuckle Duster's gear on the nightstand. Kazuho guessed he left them behind in a rush. I just scrubbed them down and tried not to think about how long he'd been gone. I remembered how the three of us took down those Sturm und Drang brothers. After checking for trigger signs, things went quietly. Then Knuckle Duster just slipped into an alley, telling us to take care of Naruhata. I told him we would. He just gave me a look and said he knew I could. Makoto stopped by later with more fan mail and pictures for Kazuho. While the girls celebrated her growing fan base, I continued scrubbing those knuckles clean. Meanwhile, Soga was taking care of Tamao at the medical center. When she woke up, she was groggy and scared, asking where her dad was. Knuckle Duster arrived just in time. He gently told her that her mom had passed away right after he assured her that their daughter was safe. He promised Tamao that she wasn't alone anymore because he is now her guardian. The next day, Kazuho brought home a corkboard for her photos and letters. I started pinning up Knuckle Duster's gear and the recycling schedules, but she wasn't exactly thrilled. Then Makoto dropped by, asking if he'd shown up. I told her he is still missing. It hit me again how little time we'd spent together. But even now, I still felt like he was with us. Not physically, but in the way I moved, the way I thought. I didn't realize it then, but things were about to get a whole lot wilder. One season was ending, and another was just beginning. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing.